Mhm. Okay. So first we have seen like how do we create a subject? Okay. So in the service we create a subject. How do we change the value of the subject? So by using next method and whatever the value we want to change. How do we subscribe? So if it is in the service, so your user service dot your variable name and then dot subscribe. Then you can create a observable by using off also, by using from also. Off will get you all the data in one go, but from will get you one by one data. So how many elements you have, that many time your subscribe will execute. An interval. After every 1 second, your subscribe will execute. Okay. So this is what we have seen. Now we are moving towards the API call, like what things we should know when we do the API call integration. Here, user service. Let's try an API call. Create car. Hmm. Okay. Now this API is returning this data, right? The return type of this API is object, and in data we have the actual array. But let's say this is a GET API, so we don't need to worry about this result and the message. Obviously, if the data is not there, we will get the empty. So we just want the data. Okay. So if we create this API call function into our service, get cars, return this dot http dot get, and we have to pass the URL. Now, this function will return whatever the response we get, and this API will return object. Okay. Now, if we have to do the API call integration over here, this dot user service dot get car dot subscribe round bracket result colon any round bracket. Now, so here what we will get in result, we will get object, but I don't want the object. I don't want to write, let's say if you have a variable like this car list colon any of array is equal to empty. Normally what you will write, this dot car list is equal to res dot data, right? This is how you will write. Just a minute. Okay. So instead of writing like this result or data, directly over here, I should get the array. Okay. But your API call is returning object, and in that object data property, you have the array. So here you get all the response object. So before returning this data back to the component, you can format the data. Okay. So here only in the service only, here you get all the here you get the response. Actual response will be object. But before sending this data back to the component, you are going to format it. So how you format it? So by using, you need to add a pipe operator. Okay. So pipe operator is the operator from the RxJS which helps you to use another operator. Okay. If you see over here, if I use dot, what I'm getting for each pipe subscribe. The remaining operators are not coming. Those are from the RxJS. So if you want to use another operator, so you have to use pipe operator. So pipe operator helps you to use all the operator. Okay. See now here you can use map. Okay. Then tap, distinct, until. So many operators are there that you can use. Okay. So now we have to format the data. So we have to use map operator. Okay. Now in map operator, result colon any. Data type. Okay. So in this result, you will get the object. Now from an object, what you need to return? Just the data. So result dot data. So from your API call, you got the response in result. Result contains whole object, result data message. From that, you are just returning data. So now over here, you don't want the data because here you will directly get the array now. See now. Here also I will add a debugger. Let's add a debugger over here also by adding curly bracket over here. And here we will need. See, if you are not using curly bracket, then you don't need the return keyword. If you are using curly bracket, you need the return keyword because arrow function, if it is a single line code, return is not mandatory, but you can write the return also. Okay. Let's see this now. Okay, we need to call this function on the page load. So in the constructor, I'm calling. Okay. No value accessor. Hmm. Okay. So this function from my user service got executed. So from here, I'm making the API call. Continue. See, in the result, I got the response. What do I have? Date object, data, message, and the result. So from this object, what I'm returning? Just the data. Okay. See, from my API call function in my service, I'm returning just the data. So once I continue over here, you can see we just got the data. So whatever the response you got from the API, you formatted it and then you send it back to the component. Instead of passing the whole object as it is, you formatted the data. So whenever we have to format the data before sending it back to your component, we can use map operator. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So like this, you can modify the response before sending it to your component. Means now currently we are doing the API call integration, but if you have normal object also, let's say you have a normal subject also, and in subject you have something there also, wherever you are using the stream of data, right? So before sending it back, you can format it. Clear, everyone? Okay. Now everyone clear with map operator what we do? Now this map is with array also, right? In array also we have map. That map is different. This map is from RxJS. Okay. So clear, everyone? Map operator we use so much when we work on the project. Let's say we will have a API call which is returning so much of data. Means if we talk about employee, get employee by ID API. So it passes the employee basic detail, family detail, employee project detail. But let's say in one component, you just need the employee family detail. So instead of sending the whole data, you will just send the employee result dot employee family data like that. So whenever we have to format, whenever we need the required data from the API call, so we format that or we modify the response, whatever we get in the service itself. Okay. Clear, everyone? So same thing like when we saw the RxJS that async operator, right? Let's try to do that also. When we use the async pipe, let's say, what is that? Car data. I'm creating an observable colon observable any of array new observable. Okay. I created an observable data. Now in constructor, I will assign the data. So this dot car list is equal to this dot car now this function is actually returning the data, right? So let's create one more function without the map. Okay. Get cars 2. Now this API call is returning object. Okay. And here this dot car service, oh sorry, user service. Just wait, let me share it again. Dot get cars 2. Why it is giving error? Okay, we need to provide the proper return type also over here. Colon observable. Okay. So we created an observable, and in that observable we are assigning the date that particular function. Okay. Now this we can use it directly onto the for loop. Let's say we have drop down and at the rate for loop over here. Okay, to use async pipe, we need to add the async pipe first. Okay. Now in car list, we are going to get the observable type. Wait, mute. Okay. So we have to add the async pipe. But what type of data we are going to get it over here? Let's try to print this also. Okay. By using your JSON pipe. We have already seen this, right? So there we use that ngIf and store the data somewhere. Okay. So we created an observable. Then to this observable, we have assigned our function. And this observable directly we are using into the HTML by using the async pipe. Okay. So see now. What do we got? Object bit. Why object? Okay. Async pipe, then JSON pipe. So we got the whole object, message, result, and data. So if we have the for loop, so for loop cannot iterate on the object, correct? So we just need the array. So instead of doing that ngIf and storing into variable, then variable dot data, you can actually format the response over here. So dot map, sorry, dot pipe. So either you can format the data into your service also, or same thing you can do it over here also. Map result colon any. What you actually need from result, you just need the data. Okay. So see, once I get the response from this function, I'm immediately formatting it. Okay. See now, directly you got the array now instead of that object. Understood? Now you can directly use it over here. Option item dot, what is it? Brand or something we will show. Got it? So whenever we do the async pipe and your response, API response is something else. So either you can format that over here in the service, or here also you can format. So then your car data will actually get the data only from your whole response. Understood? Clear? Okay. Now, so map operator helps you to modify the response before sending it back to the component. But let's say I want to store the actual response also. Whatever the actual response we have in this, whatever the actual response we got, that also I need to store. So before Modifying the response, again, one more operator is there, that is tap. Okay. So tap operator allows you to read the actual response. Okay. So response colon any comma. See, by using pipe operator, you can use multiple operator like this. Now, here you get the actual response, mean result data dot message. And this actual response, you want to store it into your one of your variable in the service. Okay. So let's say API data. Actual response we will store into this variable. Let's add a debugger. See, first tap operator got executed. So we got the actual response. That actual response we are storing into this variable. Okay. Now, whatever the actual response, whole API response we have got, that we have stored into variable. Then our map operator will execute. And here we are sending it back. Got it? And here you got the array. So by using tap operator, you can actually subscribe the actual response of the API without modification. If you add this earlier, so your response got modified already. So in tap operator, you won't get the latest response because you already modified the response. See now, if we change the sequence, it, let me comment this one interval, otherwise it will start keep executing. Okay, so we formatted the data, then our tap operator will execute. So see here we directly got the array. So make sure whenever you are using top tab operator, it should be first in the sequence, because when you join multiple operators in the pipe, it will execute by sequence. Understood? So tap operator we use to store the actual response before modification. Clear? Understood? Anyone? Any doubt? So tap and the map operator. Map operator helps you to modify the response. Tap operator helps you to read the actual response. Okay. Now we in service we have created subject. Okay. Just like subject, there is one more type of observable, that is behavior subject. Okay. So number we have stored, let's say active user dollar colon behavior subject. Okay. String new behavior subject string round bracket. Okay. See the first difference between subject and the behavior subject. In case of subject, we cannot initialize the default value. Expected zero argument. Okay. In case of subject, we cannot provide a default initialization value. We cannot initialize the subject. Okay. But in case of behavior subject, we can initialize it. And it is mandatory also. Whenever we create a behavior subject, we have to actually initialize it. That's the first difference between subject and the behavior subject. This is the most famous interview question. What is the difference between subject and the behavior subject? Subject we cannot initialize by default. Behavior subject we can initialize. Clear? Okay. Now, second difference. We will, in the service, we have created this subject and behavior subject. Okay. Now, over here, we already are subscribing to the subject. Now, this dot user service dot, what was that? Logged, what's the active user? Subscribe, round bracket, result, colon, any. Okay. So see, this is your subject, or let's change it to number, subject, and active user behavior. Okay. So number subject is our subject and active user behavior subject is our behavior subject. Okay. Number subject, behavior subject. And from our HTML, we have this button, right? Let's create two more button. Button, change subject. One more button to change. Or let's do that same thing in a one function only. Click, change subject. Okay. Now, in this function, what I will do, I will change the subject also and behavior subject also. So this dot number, user service dot number subject dot next. I'm emitting 22 in the subject. Okay. Then this dot user service dot active user behavior subject dot next. Okay. Same property next. In subject also we have same property and same method, and in behavior subject also same method. Rahul. Okay. So on button click in this function, I'm emitting the data in subject also and behavior subject also. Okay. So just first see this. Fine. Where is the subject? How? Wait. Where is the button? HTML is not saved or what? Okay, in HTML somewhere we are using number. Where we are using number? Okay, here. Okay. Now, once I click on it, from your component function, you are changing the subject value also. Means in subject also you are emitting the new value, and behavior subject also you are emitting the new value. Okay. Once I click on it, this line got executed and this line got executed. So see, subject got the new value and behavior subject also got the new value. Because on click of that particular button, you are emitting the value in subject also and behavior subject also. So both the subscribe got executed. Okay. Now currently we are only dealing with the RxJS component. Let's try to subscribe this in lifecycle component also. In lifecycle component, I will integrate my service, private user service, colon, user. Okay. Now over here, this dot, both the thing again I will do. Means subject also I will subscribe and behave subject also I will subscribe. Fine. Now I have created subject in my service and behavior subject also. Both I'm subscribing in user component also and the lifecycle component also. Okay. Now see the difference. This is the actual difference you have to explain in the interview, not the initialization. That is the difference, but this is the actual difference they always look for. Fine. Let's remove all the debugger now. Okay. Now currently we are in the RxJS component. Once I click on it, I'm emitting the value in subject also and behavior subject also. So my subject subscribe got executed and then behavior subject got also executed. Okay. If I navigate to the lifecycle component, what got executed in lifecycle component? What is this? Behavior subject. In behavior subject, we are able to read the updated value, but your subject is not executing. In your C, when we were in the RxJS component, we emitted value in the subject also and behavior subject also. In both the places, we emitted the value, but if we navigated to the life cycle, only behavior subject got executed. In only in the behavior subject, we are able to receive the data by subscribing to it. But subject is not allowing us to get the data. Correct? So what's the difference now? And let's say in life cycle, here also let's say we have a button. Okay. Change both. Okay. In now lifecycle component also I'm changing the both the value of the subscriber subject. So this line I will copy and paste it over here. While emitting now here I will emit 66 and here Ankit I'm emitting. Okay. Now in lifecycle component also I'm changing both the value. First let's go to RxJS. We will do it again. Okay. Currently I'm in the RxJS component. Once I click on the subject in your अरे यार life cycle component will execute now because of the catch. Let me clear it. Okay, change subject. RxJS num got executed. We are able to receive the num subject value and we are able to receive the behavior subject value also. Okay. Now if I navigate to lifecycle component, only behavior subject will be able to read the data. See, Rahul we got, but subject didn't execute it. Okay. Now in the lifecycle component, if I execute this, see now I am able to read this RxJS will also execute because of the cache memory. Okay. Forget about this. Now in lifecycle component, I am able to receive the subject also and behavior subject also. Again, it will go to the over here. Okay. See, when you emit the value from the subject, when you emit the value in the subject, what are the components are currently loaded into the browser? Wherever you are doing the subscribe, if that component is loaded onto the browser, they will only able to subscribe it. In the subject, when you emit the data, if your component is subscribing to that subject and your component is loaded into the browser at that time, so then only you will be able to receive that data. Okay. But in case of behavior subject, once you emitted the value, okay, the component which is there, it will receive the data. Okay. But let's say lifecycle component, it was not loaded at that moment when we emitted the value in the sub behavior subject. After some time it loaded, but still it will receive the data. That's what happening. See, let's do it one more time. Hard reload. Okay. Now currently I'm in the lifecycle component. I changed the subject and behavior subject both. In the lifecycle component, subject also we got and behavior subject also we got. If I navigate to the RxJS component, see only behavior subject we are able to receive. Subject subscribe didn't got executed. Understood? So when you emit the subject, if the component where you are subscribing it is if it is present at the moment, then only subject subscribe will execute. Okay. But in case of behavior subject, doesn't matter when you emitted the value in the behavior subject, the component was loaded at the moment or not. If you load that component after some time, still it will able to read the value. What was the updated value? Understood? This is the main difference between subject and the behavior subject. I know, like, by seeing the example also, you won't be able to get it at one time unless you write it and actually see the difference. Try to create subject and behavior subject, emit the value, and try to subscribe in different component. And when you actually navigate, then you see subject won't execute, but behavior subject you will able to receive. So subject will only send the data to the active subscription. Whatever subscription is active means what wherever you are doing the subscribe and that component is loaded, that will only get. It doesn't keep it doesn't keep a track of who has got the data and who has not got the data. Okay. Subject doesn't keep a track of data means what are the subscription, how many people are subscribing to it, and does they got the data or not. It doesn't keep a track of it. But behavior subject keep a track of data, like how many people are subscribing to it and who has got the data. Whenever new people come in, it will send the data again. Understood? In case of people means component. Wherever component is subscribing, behavior subject will track. Like when I emitted the new value, this component got the data or not. If not, again it will send it. Subject doesn't do that. Whatever the components are present at the moment when I emitted the data, those will only get the subject data. But behavior subject with data will get in future also. Clear? Clear everyone?
जो कंफ्यूज हो रहा है।
ऑब्वियसली मैंने बोला ना कंफ्यूज होगा। अरे देखो ना, समझने का ट्राई करो। रिफ्रेश अगेन।
मतलब ये रियल टाइम में कोई एग्जांपल जैसे
हाँ, तो रियल टाइम में एग्जांपल कैसे लोगे? अगर आपको कोई डेटा है जो आपने एमिट किया, ओके, जितने कंपोनेंट लोड है एट द मोमेंट उनको ही चाहिए। अगर कुछ कंपोनेंट थोड़ी देर बाद आते हैं उनको नहीं देना है, तो आप सब्जेक्ट यूज करोगे। बट बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट कब यूज करोगे? अगर आपने बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में कुछ डेटा स्टोर किया, जितने भी कंपोनेंट है जहां जहां पे मैंने सब्सक्राइब किया वो फिर एट द मोमेंट अवेलेबल है या फिर कुछ देर बाद नेविगेट होने के बाद आएंगे, तो उनको भी मिलना चाहिए। सो यू विल यूज बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट। ओके। सॉरी। सब्जेक्ट का डेटा जब एमिट होता है तो जितने कंपोनेंट वहां पे प्रेजेंट है उनको ही मिलेगा सब्जेक्ट का डेटा। अगर आपका कोई कंपोनेंट थोड़ी देर बाद लोड होता है, उसमें सब्जेक्ट आपने सब्सक्राइब किया है बट उसको नहीं मिलेगा। बट बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में अगर आपने डेटा स्टोर किया, कुछ देर बाद भी अगर आपका कंपोनेंट लोड हुआ तब भी आपको उसका डेटा मिलेगा। ठीक है। सो अकॉर्डिंग टू द सिनेरियो, समटाइम्स वी यूज सब्जेक्ट, समटाइम्स वी यूज बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट। ओके। ठीक है, मैं मीटिंग फिर से स्टार्ट कर रहा हूँ। देखो, जब भी हम एप्लीकेशन में काम करते हैं हमें डेटा स्टोर करने की जरूरत होती है। ओके। ऐसा डेटा जो एक कंपोनेंट से डेटा चेंज हुआ और वही डेटा मुझे दूसरे कंपोनेंट में भी चाहिए। ओके। सो उस टाइम पे हम क्या करते हैं? सब्जेक्ट या फिर बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में डेटा हम यूज करते हैं। लेट से इस कंपोनेंट में आप डेटा चेंज कर रहे हो आरएचजीएस, बस इसी बट इसी कंपोनेंट के अंदर आपने लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट भी इंपोर्ट करके रखा है सिलेक्टर से। सो उस टाइम पे क्या करोगे? आप आरएचजीएस कंपोनेंट में हो, आरएचजीएस कंपोनेंट से आपने आपको डेटा स्टोर करना है और वो डेटा इस कंपोनेंट में चेंज हुआ कि आपको लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट में भी चाहिए, और लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट भी आपने इसी कंपोनेंट में लोड करके रखा है। तो आप सब्जेक्ट यूज करोगे कि बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट यूज करोगे? व्हाट यू विल यूज? You are going to store in RxJS component, there is some data you want to store it into your subject, okay, or behavior subject. And same data, once that data change, you have to read that data into your lifecycle component also. And lifecycle component is also loaded into the RxJS component by using the selector. So what you will use, subject or behavior subject? समझा नहीं क्या मेरा क्वेश्चन?
बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट।
बिहेवियर
सब्जेक्ट।
सब्जेक्ट ना, क्योंकि लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट भी, योर लाइफ साइकिल component is also loaded already over here. Let's do that, then you will understand. In RxJS component, I'm here loading. क्या रहता है? Okay. In RxJS component, I'm rendering app cycle life cycle component also. Okay. Let's write it over here. Life cycle is already there. Okay. It's not saved. Okay. So in my RxJS component, I have rendered life cycle component also. Fine. Now see, this button is in my RxJS component. Once I click on this button, my subject and behavior subject, both the values are going to change. Okay. So see now, RxJS component subscribe got executed. Currently we are in RxJS, and RxJS now lifecycle subject also got executed. See, continue. RxJS behavior subject got executed, and then it will go over here. Your behavior subject from lifecycle also got executed. Now understood? When you emitted data from RxJS component, since your lifecycle component was also loaded, so here also that subscribe got executed. So lifecycle once the data got changed into your subject and behavior subject, your lifecycle component is also able to receive the data, right? So currently we are storing the data in subject also and behavior subject also. So my question was, what we should use, subject or behavior subject, if the component is already loaded over here? Subject na, because when the value is changing, your component is already loaded. So subject will emit the data. That's why you are able to get it. Okay. But your component, once you change the value, your life cycle component is not loaded over here. This is not present over here. But once you navigate to that component, then also you should get the data, whatever the data we emitted from here. Then you will use behavior subject, because when you use the subject, if the component is present at the moment, then only it will receive the data. If it load after some time, it won't load the data, right? But in case of behavior subject, once you emit the value, if your new component loaded after some time, still it will get the data. That's the difference. Understood? Clear or no?
So,
Hmm.
so please repeat.
कहाँ तक रिपीट, क्या नहीं समझा? कुछ भी नहीं समझा कि ये अब्बई वाला एग्जांपल नहीं
नहीं नहीं,
समझा?
अभी 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 जस्ट बोला ना, लाइफ साइकिल
देखो,
कंपोनेंट इंपोर्ट करने के बाद।
मैंने RxJS कंपोनेंट में लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट इंपोर्ट किया है, ठीक है?
हाँ।
इस कंपोनेंट में मेरा लाइफ साइकिल कंपोनेंट भी लोड हुआ, मतलब मेरे एट अ टाइम कौन से कंपोनेंट लोड है? RxJS तो है ही, और RxJS के
RxJS
अंदर
और
मैंने
लाइफ।
लाइफ
हाँ।
साइकिल भी है. ओके. वंस आई एमिट द वैल्यू, लेट्स रीलोड. Once I emit the value from your RxJS component, you are emitting the subject also and behavior subject also. Okay. See now, RxJS component subscribe got executed. See the file activated. Okay.
हाँ।
Then lifecycle component also got executed. Means once I emit the value from RxJS, RxJS component is also able to subscribe, and lifecycle component is also able to subscribe. Clear? Subject also it
Yes.
will get, and behavior subject also it will get, because once we emitted the value, both the components are present at the moment. Clear?
Yes.
But if I remove this lifecycle component from my RxJS component,
Yeah.
okay, and if I emit the value, let's clear. Once I emit the value, only RxJS component subscribe got executed. Okay. subject and behavior subject also. But if I navigate to the life cycle, in life cycle, see, only behavior subject got executed. Subject is not executed. This doesn't got executed because when we emitted the subject, this component was not present, so it won't get the data. Understood now?
Yes.
So if you have a scenario key, if you store some data from one component, other component also has to get it. And those other component are not present at the moment. They can load anytime. So you have to use behavior subject. Okay. But if you know that once you are emitting the data, whatever the component you are going to need it, those components are going to be present in that same component. So you will go for a subject. But those components are going to load after some time. So you have to go for a behavior subject because behavior subject will track the data who has got it or not. And subject doesn't track the data. Whatever the components are present at the moment, they will only get the data from the subject. Understood? So this is the actual difference everyone will expect in the interview. Yeah, subject cannot be initialized and behavior subject can be initialized. That's the difference. But this is the main difference. सब्जेक्ट आप जब सब्जेक्ट में जब आप वैल्यू एमिट करते हो तो ओनली जितने कंपोनेंट एट द टाइम लोड है उनको ही मिलेगा, उनका ही सब्सक्राइब एग्जीक्यूट होगा. अगर कोई कंपोनेंट थोड़ी देर बाद लोड होता है तो उसको वो डेटा नहीं मिलेगा. बट वही अगर आपने बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट में डेटा स्टोर किया तो जो कंपोनेंट एट द टाइम प्रेजेंट है उसको भी मिलेगा. अगर कोई कंपोनेंट है जिसमें हमने सब्सक्राइब किया वो थोड़ी देर बाद लोड हुआ राउटिंग के बाद, उसको भी डेटा मिलेगा. क्लियर? एवरीवन क्लियर है?
Yes. Yes.
सो ये करके देखोगे तब समझेगा. लिख के देखना पड़ेगा. सब्जेक्ट बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट क्रिएट करके देखो, अलग अलग कंपोनेंट में सब्सक्राइब करो, फिर आपको समझेगा कि हमेशा सब बिहेवियर सब्जेक्ट ही एग्जीक्यूट हो रहा है, सब्जेक्ट एग्जीक्यूट नहीं होता है. सब्जेक्ट सिर्फ उसी जो जो कंपोनेंट एट द टाइम एमिट करने के टाइम पे जो जो लोड है वही एग्जीक्यूट हो गए. अगर थोड़ी देर बाद कंपोनेंट आया तो उसको वो डेटा नहीं मिलता है. ओके. क्लियर?
Yes.
ओके. नाउ जस्ट इंटरव्यू का एक फेमस क्वेश्चन है, वो एक दिखा देता हूँ. डिबाउंसिंग कहाँ पे गया? एपीए कॉल चाहिए हमें. ई कॉमर्स ब्लॉक. इसमें है क्या एक? सर्च सर्च गेट ऑल प्रोडक्ट गेट सिंगल प्रोडक्ट. ये तो भी सर्च का एक एपीआई था. कहाँ पे था वो? प्रोडक्ट. किसी को याद है क्या? कोई सर्च वाला एपीआई था जिसमें अपन प्रोडक्ट सर्च करते थे, फेक वाला ही था. गेट प्रोडक्ट कैटेगरी. यहाँ पे भी नहीं है. प्रोडक्ट्स डेटा. यहाँ पे भी नहीं है. कोई भी एक फेक एपीआई. अभी यहाँ पे था क्या? हाँ सर्च प्रोडक्ट ओके। अब डिबाउंसिंग और डिबाउंसिंग एक मोस्ट फेमस क्वेश्चन है एक मतलब अगर आपका इफ यू हैव एक्सपीरियंस मोर देन 4 to 5 years ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस everyone will be asking debouncing. How does debouncing work in by using Angular? Okay. So अब ये एक API है. Let's go to RxJS now. Okay. Now in RxJS component we have a search box. Input type text. Search product. Okay. Now in RxJS component we have a text box for searching the product. Okay. Once I search something, I need to integrate this API. Okay. Let's call this first. Search products. This dot let's write the HTTP over here only, private HTTP colon HTTP client. Okay. This dot HTTP dot get and our URL and dot subscribe result colon any. Okay. console dot log result में हर बार प्रिंट करते जाऊंगा और ये we have a text box obviously whatever the user search over here that we need to pass it over here instead of phone, so we need to use the let's use our sorry forms module ng module we will use. Here we will create a search text colon string empty, and this variable we will bind over here ng model. Okay. Now, once this text box change, then we have to call this function. So what method I should use or what event I should use? Once my text box value changed, then I need to call the search API. Which event I should use? Which event I should use? On the search of this text box, I need to call the API function. Which method I should use?
Content.
Change only, right? Change. Or function search product over here. Okay. Now in this, instead of this phone static, we will pass plus our search text. Fine. See now. Let's go like this. Okay. Now let's say if I type phone, change event when it will trigger, I change the text box value, but my API call didn't trigger. Once I click outside, then my API call triggered, right? So change event, how does it work? Once you click outside, then your change event will detect, right? So can we use change event over here? Is it the right event?
No.
Right?
No.
Once you just start typing, API call should trigger, na? So change event we cannot use. So what we can use then? If not change. What we can use? Key down, key up,
Center.
huh? Or input. Input also we have seen, na? Which will trigger quickly once the input value change. See now. Getting it? Once user is typing, your API call is triggering. Correct? Understood or no? So whenever user type, your API call is triggering. So you can see user type phone. So how many API call were there? 5 API call were there. Now this API call, is it required? All these 4 API call? Only one API call should be there, normal, because we didn't give the user to time. We should give user some time to type. Now after that we should make the API call. Correct? Or like every word user type, we have to do the API call. What should we do? Once user type every character, then we should do the API call, or we have to give some time user to type. What should we do?
Give some time.
Right? We
Okay.
have to give user some time not to type, because PHO, this search text doesn't mean anything. Na? User is typing something still. So we are not giving time, because once user change the text box, immediately we are making the API call. So first, this API call won't make any sense, and unnecessary we are using the multiple API call. Unnecessary we are keeping our API busy, right? So we have to limit this API call, and we have to give user some time also to type. So here the debouncing concept is there. So we allow user to type properly. Once he is done typing, then we will trigger the API call. So to do this, we have to use the debouncing. Okay. Now, how do we use the debouncing? First of all, whenever this debouncing you have to explain, always you go with your reactive form. Okay. So let's remove this. Now, instead of creating this normal variable, what I will do, I will create a form control, search control. Just like how do we create a reactive form? First, we create a form group. Inside that form group, we create a form control, right? But here we just have a single text box. Why to create a form group, right? So we can directly create the control also, just the control. Just like in normal template form also, either we can create an object or we can create a normal variable. Just like that in reactive form also, either you can create a form group and multiple controls will be there. And if you just have a single control needed, so you can directly create the control also. So new form control, and we will initialize with empty. Why it is giving error? Sorry. Right. Search control equal to new form control. Okay. We will initialize with empty. So we have created a control. Now this control we have to bind to our HTML, but again reactive form module we need to import. Now to the text box, here we will use form control. Now, when you have a form group, you will use form controller name. But now you just have a form control. So you will use form control over here. You cannot use that form controller name. Okay, and a square bracket. Okay. So see, in reactive form, either you create a form group, and inside that form group, you create multiple form control. Then to some parent element, you will bind that form group. Then in every HTML element, you will use form controller name. But if you just have a single form control, you don't have a form group, you just have a form control. So you can bind that to your particular element by using the form control. Okay. Now, how do we, now we have a reactive form control, right? So we have to subscribe whenever the text box value get changed. We can subscribe, means whenever your text box value get changed, ultimately your form control value is also going to change. So we can subscribe to this change. Okay. So how do we write the code? So over here in constructor, this dot search control dot value changes. What type of data this value changes is returning? What type of data this is returning?
Observable.
Observable, right? Means whenever your text box value get changed, this value changes will trigger. It's an observable. If it is an observable, what we can do?
Subscribe.
Right? We can subscribe to it. See, console subscribe search text, colon string, console. Why we are getting error? Okay, dot log, search text over here, I will print it. Why still we are getting error? We don't need the round bracket or what? Okay, fine. So see how many times this will print. We created a form control. This form control we binded to our text box by using form control directive. Okay, let's comment this for some time. Whenever the text box value get changed, you will be able to receive the value in the subscribe. So you are actually subscribing to the that form control. Means whenever this form control value get changed, you are subscribing to it. See now in the console, PHONE. Getting it? So mean whenever your text box value get changed, ultimately your form control value is going to change and you are subscribing to that value change. See, every time your subscribe got executed, this console got printed. That's understood, right? This console.log means whenever your text box value get changed, that many time your subscriber is getting executed. Okay. Now this API call, instead of putting it in a function, I will do that over here. But now instead of directly subscribing, so currently also, let's write it over here. So now over here, now you don't have this variable, right? Here you get the search text. So this you will pass it over here. Once your control value get changed, you are making the API call and whatever the search text user has typed over here, you get it over here that you are passing it over here as a parameter. Okay. Now see, same thing will happen. Got it? Python's API call is there. So earlier we did it with the ng model. Now we have done it with the form control. Okay. But again, we have the same problem. So many API calls are there. So now here we can use debouncing. Now instead of directly subscribing, we can use pipe operator. Okay, round bracket. First operator we have to use is debounce time. So we have to give user some time to type. So debounce time. Okay, let's say give 3 seconds. Then you make the API call. Let's put it over here. Oh, sorry, map, switch map also we have to use. So debounce time. Now, see, let's say I type P. Okay, P API call is in progress. And after P, again I type PH. So now the previous API call. Now network speed is good, so it won't you won't be able to see that pending. Let's say, oh, currently it is pending. But before getting the response of this API call, again I type, again one more API call will be there. Correct? See, before getting the response of the previous API call, again one more API call was there. So the previous API call response doesn't matter now because already we have a new API call with the new search text. So previous API call response doesn't matter. So we have to cancel that previous API call response. So to cancel the previous API call, we have to use switch map. Okay. So now we have to use the switch map. First debounce time, it will allow user to wait for up to 3 seconds. Okay. Then we have to use switch map. Okay. Search text. And then your API call, you will put it over here inside the switch map. Why it is giving error? Debounce time it is giving or where? Something was there. Debounce time. I think in new version we have something else. Somewhere it breaks. We have to add a null check or something. Why it was breaking? If I remove this, it is working fine. Switch map, it is breaking, saying string void is not assignable to the parameter of value and index. Void is not assignable to type observable of input any. What is this? Let's try to search this. In older version, this same code was working, but in newer version, something got changed. This is my code. Okay, this is my code, and I am getting error like this. Angular version is 19. Let's see. There you are getting switch map. Switch map expect return and observable, but in your code you are subscribing inside the switch map. Okay. So it is saying in switch map you have to actually subscribe. Yeah, obviously I'm going to subscribe. Not subscribe finally. Result. Still error is not going. What's the code I had? Let's try to copy paste if any syntax mistake is there. Here also same thing. What it is saying. Let's try his way. It is also same. Same error we got. One of the project I have solved this. Where it was. Enter preparation. RHS. Here we go, RxJS, then subject. Same thing is there. Why it is giving error? Debounce time, due time. Type null is not assignable to type string. So it is asking us to add a null check or what? Let's see. But switch map expected just a string, not a null. How? Okay. Okay, so first we have to filter. See what it is saying. whenever you are using the switch map, in switch map, you are getting the search text. Okay. But it is possible that text box value can be null or something. So that's why it is asking us to filter. If it is not null, then only we should use it. So we will use this filter also. Filter. Okay. So this is what it needed. First, it is asking us to add a null check like that search value is not null. So we are just filtering that. If a value is string, value is not null, value is not empty, then only we are using the switch map. Okay. So let's see now how many API call it creates. See, only one API call it has done. Let's see it again. I'm stopping, then I'm typing. So once user wait for 300 min, I think it is less than 3 seconds. I think. What's the minimum of millisecond? It's not 3 seconds. What will be what's the previous version of millisecond?
Microsecond.
Microsecond it will be, I think. Let's add 1000. So it will be 1 second. Okay. So user type P, it will wait for 1 second. Then your API call got triggered. But in between, I'm continuously typing. So it won't trigger. See, after 1 second, I'm typing. So it won't trigger. Once I finally stop, then your API call got triggered. Understood? So now you have fewer API call. You are giving user time to type. Once user is done typing, he's taking a break, then you are actually triggering the API call. So this is debouncing. So this is the code what you need to do. So this filter is new. In the previous version, without using filter also, you can use the debounce and the switch map. But now I think in switch map, they have added a condition like this cannot be null. Or if we make it any, it should work actually. Let's remove this because we have provided a data type string. So it was expecting a string type of data. So now it is C. We have removed that string to any. So it is not giving the error. It will also behave the same. Okay. So because we had that string data type now, so it was asking us to add a null check, like string cannot be empty. That's why we had to add that null check. So by just adding a debounce time and switch map. So what switch map actually does, okay? Let's slow the internet speed now. Slow 4G. Okay. One API call got progress. Now you won't be able to understand that because or let's disable it. Then I think we will be able to see. But with disable, all the API call will be failed only. Let's try the custom speed. Add. Let's try this. We need very API which will take some time to process the data, and our network also should be very small, very slow speed. Okay. So what happens is actually, let's say you have one API call going on, or let's try to remove the debounce. Then we will be able to see. We have removed the debounce operator. Okay. Now let's try to slow down the speed. Slow 4G. See now. We removed that debounce operator. So whenever user change the value, API call is happening. So see what this happened. The previous API call, before we get the response of the one API call was in progress. And before getting the response of that API call, another API call is there. So it cancelled the previous API call. See it again, okay? See, pending is there, and before getting the response of that API call, one more API call is there. So it cancelled the previous API call. So this happens because of switch map. What switch map does? It will cancel the existing API call if there is any new API call. Okay. So because earlier API call doesn't matter because we have one more API call new, right? So it will consider that only. Okay. So whenever we talk about debouncing, so debounce time and switch map, these two things we have to do. So this is the simple code which helps you to explain the debouncing properly. Clear? So whenever you have to explain the debouncing, make sure you go with the search control form, reactive form, bind it, and this is your code. Search control, value changes, debounce time, and switch map. That's it. Clear, everyone? Again, you have to actually write it, then only you will be able to understand it properly. Okay. So whatever we have seen today, everything you only have to do it, then only you will get it, because everything is new now. Okay, fine. So let's connect in the evening. And those who are working on that employee component, please complete it in 1 or 2 days so that we can move ahead with the project also. Fine. I will share the recording in some time. Bye all.